Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, B&B fam. This podcast is sponsored to you by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Is there something getting in the way of your happiness? I know when I traveled the world, I had many days where BetterHelp's worldwide service of licensed professional therapists could have helped me speak to someone no matter where I was in the world about whatever was happening with my life, and with zero judgment. With their ability to match me with a therapist that best fits me, I know my mental health would have been way better back then. Believe me, I needed it. But I'm here to share a way for you to take back control of your mental health by telling you about BetterHelp's awesome services they have for you to talk with a pro about your life through their app or just online. Whether it is a video session or some simple messaging, their team is here to help. I went to check out the app for myself just to see how easy it was to use, and after a series of questions, I was told I would be able to start matching with a therapist in under 48 hours. And what is super rad is that it's affordable and they even offer financial aid too. So come join the 2 million users that have already been helped and gain back control of your mental health by visiting betterhelp.com/backyards for 10% off your first month. Remember, BetterHelp is therapy done securely online. Don't forget to use the special code BACKYARDS and let BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, help you to start living a happier life today. Hey, welcome to Backyards and Bevvies today.
Yeah.
We have special guest Camille with
Cheers.
NB Goods. Cheers.
Happy to be here.
Oh, welcome. Today's a beautiful day, by the way.
Oh my gosh. When you were talking about where, whether we do it in your yard or mine, honestly, I mean, we've spent so much time in our house the last couple of years. I'm like, I want to go somewhere else. I mean, I know you've probably experienced the same thing, but we're neighbors, so it wasn't really that hard of a decision.
No, I was happy when you said here because it always makes my life just a tad bit easier without having to travel and stuff. But then at the same time, I was like, well, I mean, I know she has a lot going on at her house, but so it's always like a balance, like where to go with it and what not to. But yeah, we live in a very cool area, and you've actually created a clothing line kind of based around the name, right?
Yeah, so we originally started NB Goods as the NB stands for Neely's Bend.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I was just talking about this with they're building that music venue up here, which is really cool. And we've just been talking to some of the people that work up there, and I was saying we were on like this quest to make Madison cool.
Yeah.
And we were like, we were making stuff with like the Madison Bowl logo on it and Donaldson Bowl and like areas around here that don't get as much shine.
Yeah,
and so that was like, we're like, this is going to be so cool. And I mean, it was fun. And obviously it's turned into something else. But, I think this area is obviously just like everywhere in Nashville is like the next place,
It's definitely moving north from, the east. Because the east was always, I mean, you were in the music business. How long have you been in Nashville?
So I've been in Nashville, it was 10 years in February.
Okay. So you're like me, you're like BK. You've really seen some of that transition, and then there's the people that have been here, their whole life and seen like, oh my gosh, this is completely different. But
absolutely.
Yeah, even in 5 years though, I think we've lived here in the Bend for maybe like 3 now, 4, I forget the number. Yeah. But I mean, every time I drive, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more people, more things, more. I love what you're doing with NB Goods though, and we have the hoodie here to show it with the
right here.
The it's like a cowabunga hand, right?
Yeah, it's a cowabunga hand. It's like I feel like what we do is I always tell people it's a little bit of everything, but our style is very laid back. Like I really like stuff that you can have forever.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't want it to be too trendy, but it's still got like a very nostalgic feel to it.
It does.
I really like things that are just kind of timeless.
I have to say that we actually have bought a few items from you, and when Berkeley first brought it up to me, I was like, oh wow, that's cool, and it took me a minute to like, because clothing lines now I feel like they're a lot, but then there's some that really stand out, and your stuff is for one good quality, and you embroider a lot.
Yeah, so
which stands out to me. That really stands the test of time. Yeah,
we do a lot of different things, and a big thing that we do is custom stuff too. So it's like we have the clothing line piece. I have a store in East Nashville, and so you can come in, you can buy something off the wall. We have the flags, the pennants, hats, things like that, and you can just come in and shop around. And then the other arm is that we do custom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really fun. To me, my favorite thing is like when somebody has like a special occasion coming up and they want a banner or something like that, to dive in and then to see it in that moment, you know, it's just that's really cool to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love our stuff, and our family loves it because we bought them as gifts and stuff, and it really will now stand the test. And I think, has embroidery been something that you've done since you were a kid, or did that just all of a sudden kind of pop up and you're like, this is that timeless?
Yeah. What's funny is, so my mom sewed when I was growing up.
Nice.
She was a seamstress. Like when I went into elementary school, she quit her full-time job had a great job as an accountant, and she quit her job so she could stay at home. And so she sewed. She's an amazing seamstress. I mean, just start to finish garments, like everything. She's always been really great at it. And I think, like, I watched her, but I never really, like, she would be like, do you want to learn? And I'm like, whatever. And then when I started to kind of oh, buddy boy. When I started getting into this, I remember like subliminally, like I still had like little things stored away, and so that was really cool, like to pick back up and be like, oh yeah. So it kind of came back around. Originally, actually, we wanted to be able to customize stuff for our dogs.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, you know. So
because your husband trains dogs.
Yeah, so my husband owns a dog training, boarding business, and we wanted to be able to, you know, just make cool stuff for the customers. But I mean, that market is there's always a home for something, but it's so saturated.
Oh
like
my gosh,
there's a lot of people doing that kind of stuff. But it's kind of what got the ball rolling. It's why we bought the machines, and then like it kind of just kept going, and it's continued to evolve, and hopefully it will continue to evolve. But there's been a lot of steps along the way.
There's a lot of steps in everything. I mean, I feel you though. It's challenging because you have to be creative for one, which your stuff is. Then you also have to put it to like make a product. You know, you can't just like create stuff. You can't just be like, oh my gosh, we need sparkles and rainbows flying out of everything and unicorns and all this stuff. And you're like, well, where are we gonna get a unicorn? So you have to be logistically kind of. And by touring, you know this. You can't just magically show up in a city. There's many steps. So, I mean, your years on the road helped kind of build these things and relationships and just kind of keep product going in and out. Or
I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of like, as you're in your experiences, you don't really think how they're going to affect you long term. And then, you know, when I started doing this business, it was like, oh yeah, I did order merch and look at merch designs and put together decks and things like that. And so all of that experience has definitely come in handy. I also learned like what I will and won't do, you know, and what I don't like. And I know there's a lot of things that are very, you know, you can put a certain thing on a shirt and I know it'll sell, but I don't want to just do that, you know? And so that's a little bit of a struggle because you see these things and you're like, I know I could just like, I mean, not to knock anything, and we have a couple, we try to make them a little different, but it's like a smiley face or whatever, you know, like, you know, those things can sell, but how do you make it your own and how do you like incorporate it into what, you know, like, we don't need more stuff in the world just for the sake of having more stuff.
And what a beautiful way to say it. We just don't need more stuff. We really don't. There's so much stuff out there. And to put out quality stuff, because when we did the logos for, you know, our product and stuff, we weren't doing it because we wanted to sell a lot of merch. We were just doing it because, for one, if we wear our own stuff, then people are more likely to be like, what is that?
Right.
But when it came time to it, I really had to go through it and be like, what do I want to put out there? Because if someone does buy it, I don't want them to buy junk either, you know, but at the same time, I can't like hold a lot of product. So we looked at it in a different light, but I see where you're saying, you're like, no, I want to put out a lot of stuff, but I want it to be good though, and like quality. And I dig your stuff. I really have to say, like, when you showed up with this one, I was like, ooh.
I love giving people that feeling. You know, I've always been someone that's taken a lot of time. I love giving gifts and like finding the perfect gift and things like that. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a weird. I never in a million years thought I was going to own a business. Like I thought. Number one, I thought I was going to stay in music forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just like, I loved it so much. And I still love aspects of it. But I thought I was going to stay in music forever. And, you know, my role, I was doing management and, you know, tour management at first and then like day-to-day management. I just always really enjoyed coming in and having like a list from somebody,
Yeah.
you know, like, okay, these are the things that I have to do today to move towards this goal. And I just never thought I would be the one making the list. That just never crossed my mind. And I guess too, in my mind, I thought like, you know, it was such a big undertaking. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work, but it happened so slowly that all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, look how far like I've come. This is like a real thing. Like people in the beginning, like everyone I sold something to, I knew, you know, and then when it started to be like, I would like see stuff out and I'm like, I don't know that person. Where'd you get that? And of course they came to the store and they bought it. But like I never realized that was going to be a thing.
It's awesome though. I mean,
it is very cool.
I think creating is one of the coolest things that a person can do. Is just, you know, you see a vision in your head and you just start going with it. Yeah. And you learn and you grow. Yeah. How long has MB Goods been up officially?
So we like filed our paperwork, like just straight up started at the end of 2019. Oh, okay. And I was still working in my full-time job in music, so I was still like touring.
And that's what I thought. I couldn't. I was like, when we were setting this up, I was like, wait, was she still in music when? Yeah,
we were just kind of like messing around and figuring out what we wanted it to be. And then in that time, so you know, in my life, a couple things happened. Number one, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. Oh man. And you know, that was around that time, and it was just one of those things where something like that happens, it just completely changes your perspective on life, you know. And he went through ups and downs of like, there was a point where we thought he was gonna make it, and then, you know, ultimately he passed away at the beginning of 2020, right before everything shut down.
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and so it was really hard to go through, but it was also like such a wake-up call, you know. It was like, I know people say, and it sounds so cliche, but you do not know how much time that you're going to have. And, you know, ideally people wait till they're like 50, 60 to retire and pursue their dreams. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I'm tired of, you know, I love the people that I was working with and for. And that was even more of an eye-opener because it was like, I had finally landed like this dream gig. You know, everything was first class and everybody treated me well. And I was like, people listened to me, and it was like, oh my God, what is happening? This is what I've waited my whole life for. And I still was like, had this kind of like stirring, you know, and I just knew it wasn't right. So that was a really hard decision to just like, really, it was like it's not you, it's me. Yeah. You know, and to have that conversation, first of all, and I'm a people pleaser. Like I'm a type 9, like that's my thing. I want everybody to be happy. So to make that decision was really hard. And then I really, like I said, I thought I was going to do music forever. So I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't think that MB Goods was going to turn into the full-time job. Yeah. You know, I just took some time off. And I worked at Hi-Fi Cookies, which is a cookie place in East Nashville. And I think, you know, seeing Sean, who owns that, like he was just opening. I was part of their like opening crew, watching him build a business. And, you know, Kevin, my husband, is an entrepreneur. He hates that word. You know, it's very whatever. But he's had businesses his whole life, and now he's doing something that is still his business, but that he really loves. And so all of that together, it was kind of like, maybe you don't have to have some crazy grand plan. You just like sign a lease and hit the deck, you know? And so we opened the doors to the storefront in October of 2020. So it was about a year after we first like really started, and it's just been kind of off to the races ever since.
There's nothing more, in my opinion right now, cooler than hearing this story, because it is true. Like walking away from something that you love, and you said it yourself, you didn't walk away because it was bad. Yeah. You did it for this. This is you're living now. Right. Like as much as you thought that you were having all this fun and doing all these things, now you really get to do everything on your time. Yeah. You're the one that makes the decisions. You get to like say, well, you know, this is how I want this to happen. And I think there's something like really satisfying about that too. It's dangerous. Yes. Yeah. It's terrifying. There's so many other things behind it. But the point is though, is that you could go 10 years working somewhere and think that you like it and you love it. But then that one day you wake up and you're like, this maybe isn't for me. And that's, I'm in the same boat as you. Like I loved music. I love touring. Yeah. Had nothing to do with the music. I love the tour. I love the friends. I love all of that. But it ate at me though, and I think that ultimately too, like when it was time to make the decision, I thought like, well, yeah, I could go back and make great money again and do all these things, but I'm missing out on so much more, and so I love your story, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted you on the show is because I think that, for one, being a female in a business where a lot of these dominant clothing lines are, you know, typically male, they're throwing out like you know, those like shirts that you talk about, like everybody has the same logo kind of, you know, it's like usually kind of masculine. There's some fun ones out there, like I think Justin Bieber has a fun, like his smiley face kind of thing that you're talking about earlier, or we were talking about prior to this. There's something, you know, you don't see that all the time, and so your colors to me are like bright, lively, happy, and I think you're living that exactly what MB Goods is too. Yeah, you know? You're not just like behind the scenes, right? You know, like
no, I wish I could just be behind the scenes. I mean, I think a lot of that is out of utility. You know, when you're starting a business, you just kind of do everything yourself. But yeah, it's a reflection of me. You know, I've always had sort of like a gender neutral kind of style, like basics that anybody can wear. You know, it's like
I love the flat bill.
Yeah, you know, we get flat bills. We get, you know, we got kind of the dad hats, the trucker hats. You know, the shopping center that we're in, you know, there's a couple of I would say it's like 75% woman-owned businesses, which is really cool.
Oh, sweet.
But a lot of them are female-leaning, just by nature, and so I think it's really funny. Like, we always have these like contests when we see like a car full of dudes come up. We're like, they're usually either going to my store or the cookie shop. Oh, cool. You know, so
that's
it's
awesome.
Like you flip a coin and just kind of wonder which store they're going to.
Are you going in like every day kind of thing, or do you give yourself the weekends, or?
Well, so
what are the store hours at a?
Yeah, so the store's open 7 days a week.
Oh, nice.
When we started, I was there every day, again out of utility. But now, I'm still doing a lot of the manufacturing and stuff myself, and project managing like the bigger projects. So we actually have a warehouse location up here, kind of closer in our neighborhood in the Rivergate area, and we have someone at the shop 7 days a week. I'm there a couple days a week. I don't like to tell people when I'm going to be there because they get mad when I'm not there, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I try and be there. You still want to be connected to it.
Well, you're a busy person.
Yeah, but someone's got to actually make this stuff. So that's what I spend the majority of my time doing these days. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Do you? What was one of the very first things that you conceptualized and then actually made and then sold?
Oh man, start to finish.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's been a few of them. I will say the most fulfilling has been the trucker hats. Okay. Because that was something that I always loved, trucker hats, and I used to like make a couple of like sew patches on and things like that. This was well before I even like I was just like doing it in my apartment. Okay. And so I actually tried making a couple of trucker hats, and it didn't work. Like I just couldn't get it right. I couldn't get the press right and all this stuff. And so I kind of was like, I'm not going to make hats anymore. Oh, okay. And then I came back to it, and now, honestly, it's like one of our biggest sellers, you know? Like, we have a Bruce Springsteen hat.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
I'm wearing a Bruce Springsteen shirt. It's sometimes it gets a little obnoxious how much I talk about Springsteen.
Is he your favorite?
He's my favorite. Okay. I'm from Jersey. Like, it's just kind of in my blood.
I was going to ask that because I saw the Yankees hat, so I figured that, you know, were you born and raised in Jersey?
Born and raised. Okay. Like, went there, like, born there, went to, like, all school there, even went to college there.
In Newark?
No, so I went to this school called Ryder. It's like, it's 10 minutes away from Princeton. Okay. So we used to like go to all the restaurants in Princeton and pretend like we went there, but obviously, I mean, it probably cost as much as Princeton. It was crazy. But so, and my mom is actually from Asbury Park, like Neptune area. So I grew up. My grandfather was the mailman on the boardwalk.
No way.
And so I grew up like going to all those shops, going to shows at the Stone Pony. I'm just like. It's a little bit of nostalgia. It's a little. I mean, obviously, I love Bruce.
You've seen him before?
I've seen him a couple times. You know, like full band or arena shows. I saw him. He played. I think it was 10 nights when they were gonna tear down Giant Stadium. Oh, whoa. So I went to one of those. Saw him in college a couple times, and then we just actually flew up last year and saw him on Broadway.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Does he have a Bruce Springsteen hat?
Yeah. So I think he does actually, which is kind of crazy.
No way.
So anyway, so we went to see him, and he makes this joke in the Broadway show where he got arrested maybe like 2 years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, he was doing a shot of tequila with these fans, and then this cop pulls him over, and he's like, "I'm not drunk," and they're like, "Yes, you are." The whole thing. Like, there's nothing better to do in New Jersey than arrest Bruce Springsteen. I get it, drinking and driving, serious offense.
Yep.
So they take
100%.
him. Yeah, they take him in. He's way under the blood alcohol level. They let him go. But
what a story, though.
Yeah.
Like, the cops probably like, yeah, I locked him up.
Yeah, and so anyway, so but he still had to actually technically go to court because the beach is federal land. So the court was called the court case was called United States versus Bruce Springsteen.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So then I made the hat, and I just got a kick out of it because I think that's just like it speaks to his personality and like everything about him. And then there's a photographer. His name's Danny Clinch. He moved his operation from New York down to Asbury Park a couple years ago, and he's always wearing a hat. And he had shot a couple artists like when I worked at Atlantic, so I just knew his work, and he's been Bruce's photographer forever.
Yeah.
So I sent him a hat.
Oh, okay.
Just cold turkey, like, hey man, love what you're doing in Asbury Park, because his gallery, the Transparent Gallery, they are really a big part of the renewal that's happening down there. And so I sent him a hat, and he's like, I got a message like 2 weeks later, and they're like, oh my gosh, we love this. We want one for Eddie Vedder and for Bruce. And I was like, they said that, can we buy one? And I was like, you're not paying for these.
I got you.
Yeah. So anyway, they gave one to Eddie. They sent a picture of it to Bruce. I don't know if Bruce actually has it or not, but he knows it exists. And
well, that's just cool, though.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I could shut the business down. Like, with that.
Done. Mic drop. Out. Peace. See you later. I'm moving. I'm out.
Yeah. But all that's to say is I almost gave up on this, like, idea, and, it turned into this, like, it was a really big turning point for the business. So. And
here they are still out there.
Still out there.
That's amazing.
And that's one where I see it in so many places now randomly. And a lot of people don't believe that we made it originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, I was at a craft fair thing last weekend, and some guy was like, oh, I know these hats. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you made them? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I've seen them here. And I'm like, yeah, we sell to them. Yeah. And he's like, no way. So like he couldn't believe it was just like coming out of Nashville.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, what a cool story, though. I mean, I've never been a giant Bruce Springsteen fan, but I do love the On Fire song. I forget the name.
Yeah. I mean, his catalog is so expansive.
Oh my God.
I mean, I feel like even when people aren't a super fan, there's always like a song that you can find that you'll love. And believe me, I'll try and convert you.
Have you seen the Defiant ones? The Dr. Dre, Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
That made me appreciate him a little bit more, just because of his I think his drive to make, like he was driving Jimmy Iovine crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just a really cool story. Like, so if you've never seen the Defiant ones, it's definitely something to check out, because his whole part to, I think, Jimmy Iovine becoming who he is now was Bruce Springsteen. And what a cool thing.
There's a great quote in that I remember like taking a video of, like, because I was watching it and I was like, this is like any excuse to post about him. But that documentary, there's a lot of documentaries that come out, and they kind of come and go, but I feel like that was one that everyone was like, whoa. Like, it really just, especially if you've been in music, it was so inspiring.
So inspiring.
Yeah. I
watch it I'm out. I mean, we're out of music now, but I watched it not too long ago because there's something about the drive in people. I think that, like, just by you taking that initiative to leave music to do something for you that you saw in, maybe it doesn't pay off tomorrow, maybe it doesn't pay off in 5 years, but in 10, 15, 20 years, those are those like giant visions, and not everybody has that. A lot of people want to say they do. A lot of people want to a lot of people want to turn around and be like, oh, I want the Ferrari and the 20,000 square foot home and all that stuff. But a lot of people don't want to put in that. Okay, well, here's today, day one. What am I going to do day one? Yeah. So,
and it really is. It's a grind. I mean, I hate the over glorification of like grind and hustle and whatever. But you just wake up every day and you just do whatever you got to do to get across the finish line that day.
But I think there is something to be said. There is that change now. People are saying like, well, let's not the term, I guess, like, let's not put the grind on a pedestal anymore.
Yeah.
Let's, like, look at the grind differently. Like, how can I be productive 7 days a week, but not eat into my family time or my husband time or my wife, like, and I think that you doing that, as a responsible human being is paying off because now you're not necessarily grinding
right
24/7, or you're not having to fly, like every day to a different place and do all these things just to make money. Now you're like, oh yeah, I got to go make some shirts. All right, cool. I'm going to go make hats now.
Right.
And then I'm going to go do this. But I'm also going to go home.
Yeah.
Sleep in my bed. I love sleeping in my bed.
Oh, man. It's crazy, so when Kevin and I first met, I was really deep into, just work and traveling. And then I changed jobs, and it was a very similar position, but it was a lot more travel. It was a lot more hands-on. And I remember, like, that was what was starting to eat at me towards the end. And I think about, like, what you guys are doing here. You got a family. It's hard to leave that. And that was another big factor, was I was just starting to get so stressed out being, the night Kevin and I got engaged, I was on a flight to LA the next morning, and it was like, oh man, and now, so we were supposed to get married April 24th. So we changed the date twice. So I always forget whether it's the 24th or the 25th, because it was, everything was closed, everything shut down. So we didn't actually have a wedding. But we had our friend Shane Tarleton.
Oh, I love Shane.
So Shane married us in our backyard.
So cool.
And now I've gone from, being gone, maybe 25, 30% of the time, probably a little bit more. We have not been apart a single day since we got married.
That's amazing.
Which is just crazy.
It's so cool to say that, though. Like, I never wanted to be anywhere. I never thought who I am today would be fun.
Yeah.
And I say that in the nicest way. I just never did. I never thought being a responsible human with kids, a wife, that cared about other people would ever be what I wanted to be. I was more selfish than anything else. And so this right here, these conversations really do then push me even, like, I'm like, man, I really love to be this person, and I want to, like, share it with the world, because I think that love, like the love that you just said, that you haven't been away from your husband in ever now. Like, that's a cool thing to say.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, Phil, like, I can't wait to go away.
Right.
I can't wait to get on that plane and fly away. So that's awesome, though. Congratulations. And Shane, what a cool wedding. I'm sure he was just cracking you up the whole time.
Man. It was actually really funny, because he was so, like, he took it very seriously, which we appreciated. But he was like, he didn't want to mess up.
Of
so
course,
it was like a more reserved version of Shane. But he's he's been one of my best friends for a really long time, and in meeting Kevin, like, he's just part of our family.
Oh yeah. We got married in our backyard as well the first time. So I think that's just a cool thing to say, that not only are we neighbors, but you used your backyard the right, in a certain way, and we used our backyard in a very similar fashion. And ours was small. Like, I don't know how many people came to yours, but ours was tiny. Like,
well, this was like fresh pandemic.
Oh, so literally, like,
everything was started in March, and it was April. Yeah, so it was me, Kevin, and Shane, and then we had our friend Katie Kaus took pictures.
That's so cool.
And we never even, like, got close to her. She was just, like, hovering around the perimeter, so it really was. And my mom and Kevin's parents were on Zoom. Yeah, so we had that textbook pandemic wedding.
The textbook pandemic wedding.
It was
wow.
It was wild. It was very wild.
What a year, though. You got married, you started a business. I feel like the pandemic did a lot of good in a way.
Yeah,
and I say that in, like, there was so much unfortunate stuff that also came through, but I feel like it gave people that second chance at, like, a life that they maybe have always wanted to try.
Absolutely, it's such a horrific thing, the thought of all of it itself. And when I find that when you're in these situations in life, and it was the same with my dad's illness, you're faced with this thing, and there's truly nothing you can do about it, except, like, try and take care of yourself, try and take care of the people around you, and make whatever's happening a little bit better and a little bit safer. But at the end of the day, a lot of these elements are out of our control. 100%. And so you do have to let go a little bit, which is something that not everybody's great at and maybe got a little better at.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people like that control. A lot of people like to hold on to like, and that is something that ended up happening, especially with me, like, because I loved being in control of things. I had no control anymore. I was like, whoa. What do you mean I don't have a gig? I watched like all my gigs just slowly get like knocked off the freaking calendar. And I was like,
Yeah. So were you already thinking about like getting out of music, or was that like was that like a big catalyst?
I was thinking about going. So I just finished a world tour. I was over in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, all these places. And when I came back, there was something that had changed to me. I wasn't having as much fun traveling the world anymore. And it's not because I didn't enjoy it. I just was like, I really was missing all of a sudden my wife. And I was like, man, do I really want to do this? And I was like, well, I guess I could do country. And me and BK talked about it, and I was like, I think I'm just going to go to country. Yeah. And at least I'll be here, and we can have a family. Because that was the other thing. We had been married at that point, I think 6 months maybe. Okay. We've been together for a while, but I was like, man, I do want kids, like I want to have a little guy that carries my name on, and I can wrestle, and you can chase each other in the backyard, but can't do that if you can, but let's be real, like there's a lot of people that make it happen. I didn't want that life.
Well, people don't understand the difference between like world touring and Nashville touring too. It's just like such a different beast.
Exactly. Yeah, well, 100%. So then I was like, I started weighing my options. I was like, well, I've always made good money doing the Nashville side, so I can just keep with that. And then every once in a while I'll go do something maybe big or whatever, but I'll do that. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, wait, there's no gigs? So, and you're not going to pay me? Yeah. And the government's going to pay me? I don't like this. Yeah. Thank you for the money, Uncle Sam, but that's not my gig. I hate that. I think it's there for specific reasons, and I do appreciate when that help is needed, but I don't want to live off of it my entire life. And so I started really thinking about it in the longer term, so yeah, I get it. And that's why this is so fun to me, because there's a lot of growing pains. There's a lot of things that still, every day we wake up and grind. Yeah, yeah. But it's different grind though. I get to wake up and I get to wear sweatpants and a new orange hoodie now. Yeah.
Honestly, I have no work clothes. It's always like in music, you're always kind of never really that dressed up, but you get the award shows and the things like that. You got to have your couple little things. And so, that was like kind of my vow to myself. I was like, I'm just never going to go back to having to have different outfits, you know? I was fortunate. Like I made a similar deal with myself when I graduated college. I was like, I never want to have to wear a pantsuit. Yeah. Like if I want to wear a pantsuit, cool, but I never want to have to. And I never did. And so, it's the same thing now. And even, the other day I went to the premiere for Love and Country, that documentary, and I was agonizing. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to wear when I do it? And at the last minute I was like, I'm not changing. And so I went in my overalls, in my hoodie. I love that photo of you. I really do. And I was like, this is what, artists do this all the time. I walk into a room and there's an artist and they're dressed like this, and I don't really think anything of it. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. And I did, and nobody cared. And I was such a freeing feeling, Yeah,
and it's you, though. Yeah. I think that there's something to be said about that, too. When people see me in a suit, it's not me.
You're right.
I'm shorts, Vans, slips, and a hoodie, and a backwards hat. That's me. If you need me to wear jeans today, I'll wear jeans. Yeah. But I really dug that. I love that photo of you. I thought that was just this is who you are. You're at a premiere, that's celebrating black music and country. And here you are doing being you, representing your brand in the finest way possible. And I think that was just that photo is really good.
Well, thank you. It's hard for me, being on the backside of that stuff for so long. I've never liked being in front of a camera or talking or, and the documentary was a big hurdle for me to get over to do that. Yeah. And so it's just been kind of just if I am going to do these things, I'm just going to do them as me. Yeah. I'm not going to force anything. And
well, you'll feel better. I think that it'll flow too. It'll make it seem more authentic, because if you're trying to be someone you're not, you're not authentic anymore, and people will look at it and be like, well, I don't know. How was that documentary though? Let's go and say, when did they approach you to be? Well, first off, what is the documentary about?
So the documentary is called For Love and Country, and it is about it's about the history of Black people in country music specifically, but also it's really just a compilation of the stories of kind of some of the artists that are in country music right now, the Black artists that are in country music right now, and how they got to country music, what made them gravitate towards country music, and then just how their experience has been so far. And the thing that I really loved about it, when they first approached me about it, obviously it was probably like the end of last year. And it was definitely in a time where there was a lot of stuff going on that was like a little like dog whistly. There were these things going on that you would bring it up and it was just impossible to have like a real conversation about them because people had such strong opinions one way or another. And there was no middle ground, and at a point you weren't even talking about the issue anymore. People were just using them as these like flags to wave about other things. We're
not sporting teams here. Let's just have an honest conversation here.
And so I was just a little worried about anything getting misconstrued or getting caught up in that. But Andrea Williams approached me about being a part of it, and Andrea is an amazing writer, and she was a writer on the film, and I believe a producer, or she's got a couple credits on the film, and she's done some great writing here in town. She's done, bestseller work. Like, she's awesome. And as they were doing the documentary, they realized that they didn't really have a Black person on the business side or in kind of like the behind the scenes. And the truth is, there aren't a lot.
Fair enough, yeah.
I mean, it's just a fact. It just really is a fact. And so a couple of the other people that she had talked to, I was really close with, and they were still actively in the music industry. And it's just a little bit of a tough thing to put yourself in that position, which I understand. Yeah. I certainly, silenced myself and did certain things because you're just in an environment where you're just trying to protect yourself. Yeah. And so me not having any sort of like connection to it anymore, I was very free to speak my mind and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So it was not an easy yes, but it was just something I felt like I needed to do because they didn't have it. And I knew it was going to be really hard for them to find someone to give an honest perspective.
Yeah.
So what was really funny because I didn't really know the extent of it. Andrea was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to come interview you. And I'm like, cool, no problem, whatever. So she's like, can we do the shop? I'm like, great, yeah. So they came to the shop, and it was really funny because all the other shop owners we were all kind of outside, and it was like 1 car, 2 car, production van, truck. And I was like, oh. And then they were like, okay, talent, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they're like, you. And I'm like, oh. Wait a second.
The tables have turned.
Yeah, so it's actually probably better that I didn't know, and at the time they didn't know if it was going to be like a mini series or whatever. And so Joshua Kissy, who directed it, is an amazing director. I believe this is his first feature.
Oh, wow.
He's done a lot of photography work, and so it was really cool just to get to know him and see how he worked. So they came in, we talked for a while, and then kind of just didn't hear anything about it. And then they're like, so Amazon's putting out a full-length documentary. And I was like, oh, cool,
Wow.
So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. And like I said, I really appreciated that they made it about the stories of the people. It wasn't about anything else. It was about real people, real experiences. And, that isn't always pleasant. And so I think it was really cool to hear the honesty and the vulnerability of everybody involved.
Yeah. I think that there is something to be said that I think in any business we can all say that there are people get silenced because they are afraid to maybe speak up about how a business practice is happening, or even in like internal like affairs that are happening. Where you're like, man, I really would love to say something, but I just got this promotion.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say it because it's not that bad.
Yep.
I have felt too, like, since I've left the music industry, there's a lot of things that can be addressed in the music industry. And I think that through the pandemic, a lot of people brought things up, but then jumped right back into it without being able to, like, I don't know. A lot of things could have changed.
Absolutely.
A lot of people could have been like, well, before I go back, let's address this.
Yeah.
Whether it be, female working in an environment, or whether it's a Black voice in the environment, or whether it's just better accommodations for health care.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like things like that I think could have been looked at. So it's awesome that you had that ability to go in and not just make it about one detail, but give a good story about who you are. And I mean, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I have it saved. I'm excited.
Yeah.
We ended up getting busy, families in town, but I am excited to see it because it is cool. What's her name who sang the national anthem? I'm drawing a blank right now. She was on the Super Bowl.
Mickey Guyton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blown away.
Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. And there's a lot of great, talented artists that a lot of people maybe haven't heard of. You know, I think Mickey Guyton and Brittany Spencer, they're both featured in it. And it's been amazing sort of the attention that they've been, you know, able to build over the last couple years. And it's so deserved and they're so talented. But there's a lot of people's stories told in it that I didn't even know a lot about.
Really?
You know? And so that was really cool for me. And then to go to the premiere and meet everybody, and there's just sort of this sense of camaraderie, which was really awesome. And, you know, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of things that could change and should change and probably won't change. And it's exhausting, you know, and also, you know, you're kind of like, I always tell people this, you know, because I don't think people think about it. You know, when you're, in my case, a black person or a woman, and you're in a room and somebody says something out of turn or bad or whatever, nobody looks at the person who said it.
No.
They all turn and look at you to see your reaction.
Yeah.
And that is an incredible amount of pressure, you know? And a lot of times, especially for someone like me, you just want to go into like a protective huddle. You're like, why do I have to deal with this? I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I'm just existing, man. You know,
I'm just over here grabbing a soda out of the fridge. Leave me alone.
You know, and so it's really hard in that moment to know what the right thing to do is, especially when you're someone like me. It's like I worked really hard for 10 years to, you know, to build a career. Yeah. And even if you're not at fault or even if whatever, like, you don't want that to be held against you. And it's just really hard. It is. You know?
I mean, you know, I'm a Hispanic. I look white. I have Hispanic, like probably more Hispanic blood in me than anything else. So I don't get like, I'm looked at as like a white guy, you know, like, so like 90% of my day is like very normal. Yeah. I want my son, because I can't ever explain to him like certain things about life. Like, I don't know what certain people go through just because that's not just who I am. But with him, all I want to do is just show him love. Yeah. And all I want to do is just let him know, like, look, if you see someone in need, all you can do is help them. Yeah. It doesn't matter if they're black, brown, white, whatever.
Everything.
Don't even look at that. Just help the person. And I think that growing up in El Paso, Texas, we didn't have a lot of black people there. Yeah. You know, like we just didn't. But the minute I started touring, it was not like all of a sudden I was like, oh, hey, you're black. Right. Hey, I'm a white guy. It was just like my friends, you know, like, and I think that there's so much of it out there that I think more love is all we could ever do. Yeah. And I mean, you know it. I mean, I don't need to tell you anything. I mean, you have plenty of love in your heart, because every time I feel like I was cutting down a tree one time and you drove by and you're like, hey, does your husband need some help?
Well, let's be specific. You were hand sawing like a tree, and I was like, we got a chainsaw, you know, like we can come over. And she's like, no, he's doing it. And, I was like,
and it was out of love, because I wanted to know what it, like, I want my son, when he like gets older and he's like complaining about something, like, you know, I chopped down a tree by hand one day. Do you want to go out there and do that? But that's what I'm saying is, like, you're my neighbor. We don't look at each other in any other way than neighborly. And that's how I think if more people in the world went that way, and I'm sure you run your business that way, and all the things that I can say about you, like, you just have love in your heart, because I wouldn't have you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like what we're talking about is like an important distinction too, because it's like we're having these conversations, and we're not like, oh, I'm talking to a white guy today or whatever, you know. But we are acknowledging that there are differences between us, and we have different experiences.
Oh my gosh,
people are gonna have different perspectives and stuff. And I think that's the important part, is that, you know, even I was taught at a certain point in my life, like the whole, like, you know, there's no color. It's like, no, there is color. We are different. We're not all beige and, you know, like, it's cool, but that's fine. And we just need to acknowledge that, and then be like, yes, no, it shouldn't matter, and everything's cool, and we're just gonna
and let's move on
and just be really good to each other.
That's it. And it's too funny for me too, because I grew up in Texas. So I grew up on the very west side of Texas.
Okay.
So like I'd be like, oh, I'm from El Paso, and they're like, Mexico.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're part of Texas. They're like, no, you guys have a different time zone. I'm like, man, you're from New Jersey. Giant difference in personalities.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you don't even have to, doesn't matter if you're black, white, or anything.
Right.
It's just giant different personalities. And I remember my first time really going to the East Coast, I was like, whoa, this is wildly different. But people just, once you settle in, people, again, it's just like any other place. You grow up there, you find love, you build a business or whatever it is. And now, look, you have your own business, you build hats, you have shirts. And your stuff, there's one hat I'm trying to think of, and I didn't write it down either, but I loved it because it was, I could tell it was like something East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Too, and I was like,
it's probably the pork roll one.
Yeah, the pork roll one. I was like, this has to do something that I am not like.
But I want it to look cool, so that it's like, even if you don't know what pork roll is, like, you still kind of want to wear it.
Okay, so what is the pork roll?
Okay, so pork roll is it's like a salty meat. I best explain, it's like a bacon substitute.
Okay.
So when you go into a diner or a bagel place in Jersey or in New York too, you order a pork roll, egg, and cheese. And then you get SPK, salt, pepper, ketchup. So that's like, if you're really rolling with somebody, like, that's how I judge a bagel place. Like, if I can roll in, order that, they know what I'm talking about, then we're on a good playing field.
I love that.
It looks kind of like bologna.
Is it Spam?
It's not Spam.
Okay.
It looks like Spam, bologna, salami. Like, it looks like that. But it's definitely pork.
Okay.
And there's a big debate in Jersey. If you're from like super North Jersey, they call it Taylor ham. If you're from the middle of the state, they call it pork roll. And people take it really seriously.
Okay.
I'm a pork roll person. I recognize all names for it. But yeah, but that's the thing, is like, people say all the time, like moving from Jersey to the South. And when I moved to Nashville, I was like, oh, we have a Whole Foods, we got a Trader Joe's, we recycle. I was all starry-eyed. And then, there's a bit of a wake-up call. It's like, oh no, it's still the South, it's still different. There's a learning curve on certain things. But like, just like you said, that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, I met my husband here. I adopted my dogs here.
Yeah.
We have this beautiful house that I will live in till the day I die because we love it, And so you just find your people. You find your little, I hate to say bubble because that sounds so bad, but you find your things that are yours wherever you are.
Have you found a pork roll place here?
Actually, so yes.
No way. Okay.
So they sell it, if you just want to buy it to cook it at home, they sell it at Publix.
Okay.
It comes in a red box. It's the only one. That's the one you got to get.
What aisle is pork roll in?
It's in the breakfast meat, so it's like
perfect.
with the bacon and the sausage.
Okay.
And there is a bagel place in Midtown, right off the circle, called H&S Bagels.
All right.
And the first time I walked in, it just smelled right. I was like, this place smells like home.
They get their water from New York.
Yeah. I don't know what they do, but they're from Jersey, and they call it Taylor ham, but they have a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. But I knew it was legit because they were bringing bagels out of the oven, and someone tried to order one toasted, and they were like, no. And I was like, all right.
This is my jam. What is a bagel? Do you do in everything? You just plain?
My litmus test is always just like a plain bagel with butter.
All right.
Because I feel like that's how I just like can get the flavor. If I bite in and I'm like immediately transported back to my kitchen in Plainfield, New Jersey, then it's a win. But they're great, and
I'm gonna have to go try it.
Yeah, it's worth a try just if you love it. I mean, when I first moved down here, people were like, "Have you tried Brugger's?" And I'm like, "Come on, dude! Like, no way! Like, this is So it's nice to have a place that really feels like home.
Are you a Waffle House or a Cracker Barrel person? Speaking of like Southern, because those are more Southern-ish establishments,
Yeah, I'm Cracker Barrel all the way.
I love.
We used to do that on road trips.
Oh yeah.
So that was like the big thing was, if you could get far enough out of Jersey to where you could find a Cracker Barrel, it was like really exciting.
All right, yeah. I will have to agree. Yeah, I'm a Cracker Barrel person. Yeah. I'm not down with the smothered and covered and.
I don't know. I never went to a Waffle House, and then when I moved here, I went a couple times, and nothing against it, but yeah, Cracker Barrel is like the go-to. And then my dad's actually he was from North Carolina. So we used to go to a place called Biscuitville, which is like, I think it's just regional to North Carolina, but that was also like a really big exciting moment. Yeah,
man, that does sound very like North Carolinian or like Kentucky.
And the biscuits are just like, they taste like homemade, which was the thing that he always loved. So that was like kind of our go-to.
When you go back to Jersey, what's your favorite diner there?
Ooh, so the diner that
we're on food right now, so I'm just like, I'm on a food kick.
The diner that we used to go to is closed. There's changed hands a couple times, so we didn't really go there. But there's a bagel place in South Plainfield called the Bagel Pantry.
Okay.
And that's kind of my, like, the same guys have owned it forever. Like, they always have, it's really funny. They've always had, like, high school wrestlers working there. So, like, every time you walk in, it's just like, and when I was younger, it was like, oh, these are my contemporaries. And I'm like, oh my God, who are these children serving me bagels, you know?
Are you old enough?
Yeah, it's just funny.
I need to see your ID.
It's funny to see the evolution.
That's wild. We had this growing up in El Paso. I didn't, like, I always just thought a sub was like Subway sandwich. Yeah. Like, I mean, come on. Like, we were a burrito town. We had burritos and tacos. Like, yeah. So, but there was this, I want to say it was like New York Deli was the name. It was something like that, you know? Manhattan Deli, but they had sandwiches, and that was the whole thing. And as I got older, I started to think, I was like, really weird that they came here. Maybe they were like on like running from the mob or something. And then as I started, working in Lidditz a lot for Claire, and there's a pizza, like a little pizza shop that was right across the street. And now that I had experienced New York pizza, I was like, oh, okay, it was legit. The spaghetti was good. I was like, oh, these. What's the term when you go into hiding?
Oh yeah. When you get like a new identity, witness protection.
Yeah, we used to call it. Do you want to go eat at witness protection? Yeah. That was like the thing. It was like, oh yeah, that place is real good.
So, is there a like Tex-Mex place in town that you like?
Yeah, there's one up in Hendersonville.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Rancho Cantina, I believe is the name. But yeah. There's something about El Paso Mexican food. It's different. I don't know. I've never been able to find it. I lived in San Antonio, which is, you know, in Texas speak, it's a day away.
Right.
But I didn't even really like the Mexican food in San Antonio.
Interesting.
Because it's more Tex-Mexy.
Yeah. You just have like a very specific. There's like a specific window.
Yeah, just like it. There's a couple taco spots in East Nashville that are like, you know, pretty legit street tacos. And you walk in. There was one place. You know when you go under the bridge, you kind of dip down.
Yep.
And then as you come back up, it's right off to your right there. But the first time I went in there, no one spoke English. I was like, okay. I think I found a spot.
Yep.
And then I had the tacos. I was like, okay.
I think we go there. I think like that's like one of our main go-tos.
Kind of like an orangish building.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's called El Jalisciense.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
That's very close to.
Okay.
I'll say that those two places. Now there's probably a whole handful down in like Nolansville and stuff, or you know, down that way. But yeah, those two places are my favorite go-to.
That's really funny because we always, there's a couple places we go, but if we're gonna go out of our way, we always try and go there. So that's good confirmation.
It's pretty bomb.
Yeah.
I've actually become more of a pizza person now that I've left, like, I think Mexican food behind, because it used to always be like, oh, let's go get a burrito or, you know, stuff like that. Now I'm like, oh, whatever, let's swing through Taco Bell because it's convenient. Which sounds so bad. Like,
no discerning.
My Mexican grandma is rolling around in her grave right now. She's like, oh, does he still call it a tortilla?
Right.
And jalapenos and all this stuff. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think that I like to leave some of that stuff for when I go home because there's a nostalgic feeling to, like, all right, let's go get some Mexican food.
Right.
Here I'm like, oh, let's go get some Southern food. And
have you had Manny's Pizza?
No.
Okay, so
I think I heard
it's in the arcade downtown, which I guess just got like bought by a developer, like everything else in town.
No, I haven't heard of this place.
But... Yeah, so it's in that little like weird. Have you ever been in the arcade?
No.
Okay, so the first time someone told me about it, I was like, "You're making this up. Like, there's no way." It's over like off of Church, and it's really like this weird indoor mall that's like in the middle of all those office buildings.
Interesting.
And there's like an old school candy shop in there. It's it reminded me of the Boardwalk in Jersey when I first went in, and I was like, this is trippy. And someone was like, oh, you got to try Manny's.
Okay.
And we walked in, And it was, I mean, I instantly was like transported back to Jersey. Like they had like the letterboards the way it was, and the pizza is so legit. And I don't know if they're still open or not, because I know that they were closed for a while and there was like some construction, and I know that they're like, I think everything in that arcade is like closing down anyway.
Dang.
But hopefully if you can try and get a slice before
I'm going to have to send BK there one day after work.
Oh, yeah. That's perfect. They do a heavy lunch crowd, too.
Okay.
I think, so.
All right, yeah. I don't know. There's something. Pizza's my jam right now. For like the last 5 years, I'm like, I want to try all the pizzas. I want to eat all the things. I'm staring at my dog right now, hoping that he doesn't take the camera for a wild ride. You've probably seen him. You probably heard him make a noise earlier. I've been working with him to train him, which your husband trains dogs, and so I mean, you know that we have a 4-month-old giant puppy that it's like a train rolling through some days.
Absolutely. It's funny. We actually, all of our dogs we adopted as adults, except our last dog, Junior. We got him when he was 6 months. And that's the closest thing either of us has ever had to. Oh, I can't speak for Kevin. I think Kevin had a puppy like a long time ago. But my thing is like I like to get them a little partially baked. You know, like they come to you, they're just already existing in the world, and you already kind of know what their personalities are and everything.
Yeah.
And you miss out on the cute puppy content, but we've just always adopted, and it's been super rewarding.
Yeah, we adopted little Goose over there, and well, he not little.
Yeah.
It was funny though, because like you said, like looking at him, and you're like, oh, he's already a little baked. You know, he's already in the world now. He is a 4-month-old wild giant puppy that I was like, wow, we didn't read the sign.
Yeah.
we clearly missed the beat on this one, and it's been a fun learning curve. He's a great puppy though, and he's growing with the family, and it's awesome now. But
yeah, it's definitely like a shock to the system the first time you get one. You're like, yeah, it's cute and da da da, you know, and everybody has expectations for their dogs, and I've learned so much more about the like dynamics between us and our dogs, you know, from Kevin. It's I always tell people says he's a dog trainer, but he's a people trainer. You know, that's the honest truth. And
it is not about it's me. It's my reaction with him.
Right.
And I think that there was one thing that I didn't realize because we had cats for the last years of our life. You show them where the litter box is once, you don't have to talk to them ever again.
They don't want anything to do with you.
Well, yeah, they don't want to talk to you. Yeah. They're like, "Where's my food, human?
Right.
Human, get over here and make me some fish." Dog, I was like, "Whoa, I am way out of my league."
Yeah. I feel like most people feel that way, and it's funny because kind of like what you all did, people always think like, oh, we better be on our best behavior, and it's like the relationship with your dog is just about what you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like some people want this like perfectly behaved dog that can go anywhere and do anything and be around anyone. And for some dogs, that's just not the case. It's like, you don't want to be around anyone. You don't want to do what, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you walk in a room and you're like, nah, this ain't for me.
I'm out.
And the dog can do the same thing, you know? So it's just, it's wild it is really cool, though, to see, like, really tough cases when people come in and when Kevin does the work and then they do the work at home, and it's very transformational, and they send him these updates. It's very emotional, you know? It's really cool to see.
Well, I think that's a real key in life, though, is that if you're not willing to put in the time, the dog's never going to learn.
Right.
Same with, I mean, in anything you do, you know, you really do have to put in that little extra, and you have to go home and put in the little extra.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys do it out of the backyard, or does he have a little?
So our house is a little funky. Like, it's actually 2 lots.
Oh, nice.
So, and then one of the lots just backs up to the woods. So the second lot had a detached garage on it. So basically just converted that to a kennel.
Nice.
And it's great. It's a great setup, and I think that, I don't know, it's fun, you know? I used to be able to keep track of all the dogs. Like, I knew everyone.
Yeah.
There's a couple OGs that I still know that when they roll up to the driveway, I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
But now it's you know, the pandemic, everyone got a dog. That was, like, the craziest thing. Like, the first 2 weeks, everybody sort of canceled their boardings because everybody just didn't know what was going on. Yeah. And then everyone adopted a dog, and it was like, all right, I guess we're like a recession-proof business in this house. Like,
you've built 2.
Yeah.
I mean, clothing, people will always buy hoodies and hats and clothing, and people always need a dog trainer.
Yeah.
Or, both things lighten your life up.
I think that was the big thing for me, for NB Goods, was especially the custom stuff too.
Yeah.
Is like people really, I think now have an appreciation for a gift that like means something.
Yeah.
And that's, it's handmade. Mm-hmm. It's made right here. They want to support local, and they want it to mean something. And so it's like, at least for me personally, the days of like going into Target and buying gifts, it's like, that doesn't mean it. I don't want a gift from Target. I don't want to give you a gift from Target. No. Nothing against Target. I love Target. I spend a lot of money at Target. But
I don't want a gift from
But
Target.
yeah, that's not what it's for, So I think that's been really cool.
Yeah, there's something special about that. As we grow this family here, we think about that all the time because, well, for one, we went down to one income.
Yeah.
Which, that puts a big thing. So you can't just like go out and just buy junk anymore because you want something that's going to last for one. And it's meaningful, and one thing that we always chat about with the kids, hopefully one day, is that we get to give them memories as opposed to just, buying them another plastic toy that ends up in the trash, that ends up in a landfill, that ends up,
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, I'm not the most environmentally sound person in the world, but, I'd like to leave a little better of a footprint than I came in, but it does take that little bit of extra. And, so if I buy a hoodie now, I think about it, and your stuff, like I said, is quality stuff. So if, listening to this, make sure to go check out NB Goods.
Heck yeah.
And you're online. You have the Insta for sure, I've seen.
Yeah, so we have an Instagram account. That's really our only social account.
Which is probably the best one to have, to be honest.
Yeah, and also, like, I'm not a huge social media person personally, so I'm not really into, maintaining a bunch of accounts, my personal account, I don't even really use that much. I've heard you talk about that before, too, like how, once you have a business, you kind of sort of dedicate your time to that space. But yeah, we got the website, shopnbgoods.com, and you can do like custom orders through there. And we got our storefront in East Nashville.
I love it.
7 days a week.
I love it. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, who inspires you? Because, and this is, you don't have to go into crazy detail, but I think that in this world right now, I think, I just recently worked with a kid that was 20. Or he was like 22. And one thing that we did is we really bonded because the people that were maybe his inspiration were I don't say the wrong people, but I was able to open his brain to so much more. And I'm actually really proud of him. I kind of mentor him in a way, I guess you could say. But it's really cool because, like, to me, like, I have so many people that inspire me to help me every day kind of wake up and go through this. And so as a female in this industry of making clothes and starting over and doing all these things, who inspires you?
Gosh, well, both my parents were entrepreneurs. They both own their own businesses. And I think growing up, I don't really think I processed that as much. Like, now I think about things and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, well, I can put myself in their shoes and what they were doing. Yeah. And like, they built a life for me. I was an only child, but they built a life for me that I never questioned, was never like, oh, you better go get a real job, They gave me so much freedom to learn and do things and make my own mistakes. And I think I just always will carry all of that with me for sure. In terms of like businesses, there's a couple really great businesses that are doing things similar to what we're doing. Oxford Pennant is a big one. Okay. They're based up in Buffalo. They've been at it for a really long time, but their big thing is like the flags and the pennants, and they do a lot of work for touring artists and things like that. So that's always really cool to see. And their marketing and their branding is just always so funny and so, like, I just say it's always like, it's not like, it doesn't feel fabricated, but it's like really tight. Like, everything looks good, and you can tell it has a very specific voice. I love it. Which is something that I really strive for.
Okay, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, and then there's another company in St. Louis called Golden Gems, and that's two sisters, women run. Nice. And they have some really cool stuff, and again, really great branding, really great voice, and they're just like, I see them like they are like starting to crush the wholesale game, and they're just doing all these different aspects, and so that's just they have 2 locations now, and like that kind of stuff was just really inspiring to
Do you ever want to have 2?
Ooh, I don't know. I've heard some horror stories from like a couple other business owners. I'm in kind of that weird phase where it's like we have this great business, we built this great thing, and it could go in a couple different directions. And I'm trying not to like force myself to make too much of that decision. I've been trying to like do a little bit of, we do a little bit of custom work, we do a little bit of wholesaling, we do a little bit of bulk ordering, and just kind of see where is the natural fit for us. I don't want to force anything, and I don't want to like cross anything out.
Yeah.
So
smart.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
smart.
see where it goes.
I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on this podcast with me today. I mean,
thanks for having me.
Well, now that we're neighbors, and I think that one of the cooler things I've started to notice about this podcast is every time I have someone on, I'm like, whoa, I want them back again.
Yeah.
So I definitely want you back again because I think that, like, I don't know, I had a really fun conversation. And I think, too, the other part is that getting different perspectives out about, like, businesses and just things that you're doing, too, I think helps other people learn.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's one thing that I've just, like, been soaking up now is, like, whoa, I never knew that. Or I never, I saw you had a photo one day of, like, a sewing machine. And I've seen them, but like I don't know how they actually operate. Like and like little things like that, and it made my brain go, okay, well, I need to go Google that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really what is cool about stuff that. Sure, we were in the music business. It was a really cool thing. Like there's so much other cool stuff, and like so embroidery. I mean, that's not something easy. So I would love to have you back on one day, and we just go in on something else like sewing. Yeah,
of course. We can do a deep dive. I mean, anyone who's starting a business that pretends like, I mean, I guess some people obviously know what they're doing and are great at certain things, but I mean, I tell people 75% of my day is just me Googling, how do you? Or YouTubing, how do you? What am I supposed to do? How much do like, we're all just like figuring it out.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say this. Anyone who doesn't know how to Google needs to learn how to Google. Because I see it all the time online because I'm in a few of these like podcast forums and stuff, and people are always like, hey, I'm trying to do this and can't figure it out. Will someone do it for me? And it's like, wait, hold on. You know that there's this like beautiful thing called YouTube?
Yes.
And they will show you everything.
Everything. I will say, like, there's been one or two things that I've tried to do that I think are a little proprietary that I just like, and then I get mad because I'm like, this has to, like, how is this not on the internet? Like, everything is on the internet. How has somebody not made a video?
You found the end of the internet.
I have found a couple dead ends, at least a couple dead ends. So
wow, like I'm just gonna say wow because that's impressive because I have never seen the end to an internet, but that is
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy, awesome schedule to come over here. And, thank you for the rug recommendations the other day, too, by the way.
I was like, I mean, I don't really send a lot of illicit text messages, but I was like, man, thank goodness it wasn't something like weird or, I mean, I do have some silly conversations that really wouldn't have made sense. But yeah, our one dog is getting a little bit older, and so we're just trying to put some more like rugs down in the house. And I had been texting you about this, and I was supposed to be. And also, like when you do it on your computer, it does that thing where like it all of a sudden like jumps to another one.
Oh,
so like I didn't even notice that it was like it wasn't like a wrong text thing. It was like I had clicked the box and just started typing, and it had already moved.
I see. I never text. I just text on my phone. I'm not I see people do it all the time on their computer. I'm like, I would get so lost. Yeah. I would be in like a whole different galaxy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice. Like, I don't know if you're like me. Like, I've found myself through the last couple of years with the pandemic and everything, just being on my phone way too much. And so what I'll do is I'll charge my phone and put it in like another room. That just keeps me off like the social media, so then I can actually do work, and then if somebody needs me on a text message, I can send it.
That makes sense.
And at the shop, if I'm ever working the shop, I don't want to be sitting there on my phone.
Yeah.
So
no, it looks pro. No, but it did make me laugh. I was like, wait, is she telling me she wants to bring a new rug for the show? I honestly, that was one of the first. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I was like,
well, because there's no words either. I was just like sending them. It was like rug.
And then I paused. I waited. I was like, maybe she'll send me something. And then nothing came back, and I said, well, she's probably trying to get an answer from someone, so I should probably just send like hey, thanks for the rug recommendations. But no, that was priceless. That made me laugh that day.
Yeah.
And I'm here all by my I feel like sometimes I'm still in the pandemic. Like I really do. Like the world has opened up again, right?
Yeah.
I'm in this house a lot.
Yeah, same with us.
So when I get random text messages from people, I get so excited. I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh, I have a friend today that said something different than just like something about the show or hey, can you go pick up groceries? Right. so no, thanks for not only making me laugh and smile the other day, but thanks for coming out here and taking the time on a Saturday to.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks for having me.
No, have you done a podcast before? Or?
I did one last year, and it was super fun. It was a great experience. Okay. I feel like it's like good to just get one under your belt, and then you're like, okay, then you know, like, okay, I like this or I don't like it at all. And I'm not doing them every weekend, you know. But the first one that I did was for someone who was I was friends with also.
Okay.
And so that to me that's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun to just have people on. So I would love to have you guys on again. Or well, you and obviously the dog.
And obviously the dog. Yeah, maybe we'll bring Kevin next time and he can do some. He doesn't like to get put on the spot, but we can do some training or something.
Well, we should just probably hang out more. In other words, we go to the park every once. Well, actually, we haven't taken him to the park yet, but
ooh, big first step.
Big one.
Yeah,
but
we have a great park out here, and I've seen you guys there a couple times, which is nice. We certainly don't go as much anymore either.
That pandemic.
Oof, I was like running 3 miles every day. Really? Oh yeah, I've never been a big runner, but when you got nothing else to do, it's like, well, I guess I'll start. I did like one of those like couch to 5K apps or whatever. Yeah.
All right.
And then
3 miles ain't nothing to.
It ain't nothing. People like kind of toss it around like, oh, I ran a 5K. Like it took me a couple weeks to get up to it. You know,
especially if you haven't done it in a while. I hate running, and even during the pandemic, I even started running just to like get out of the house and see the world. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go do something. But yeah, that park is fun, but a couple of those hills running aren't fun.
No. Kevin's he's run a couple marathons.
Oh dang.
And so he's always like, oh, I didn't want to do like, he doesn't as much anymore, but you know, at past times he'll just be like, oh, I think I just did like 6 miles or whatever. I'm like, oh, cool.
You're like, awesome.
yeah. But yeah, this was really fun. And
well, thank you, and thank you for my NB Goods. I love it. Cowabunga hoodie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
bright orange.
And then you brought my little dude. What is this? Wild.
It says Wild.
I love it.
Yeah.
Little camo.
Hopefully, it's not like too much of a prophecy, you know.
Oh no, he's wild. All my children will be wild.
Yeah.
If I have one or if I have 10, each one of them will just get progressively more wild too. It's all payback. It's 100% payback. So well. Cheers. Thanks for the ranch water. Bottoms up. I mean, you're helping my hangover today, so we had a fun night out. But everybody, Camille, NB Goods, go check them out. Follow them, like them, custom order some cool stuff, and let's finish these up.
Yeah, let's
cheers. I was already like halfway done.
Oh man, I let mine get a little too warm, but that's okay.
Well, here we are. Cheers. Bottoms up. See y'all next time. Bye.